The scream ripped through the ruins before Dylan even had a chance to react. A shadow lunged from the darkness, a knife flashing in the flickering firelight, and he barely dodged, feeling the cold steel whistle past his cheek. Ah! Another scream split the air. Someone behind him was being torn apart. Dylan's legs burned as he sprinted over cracked pavement, past overturned cars, and through skeletal remains of buildings. Every second was a gamble. Every breath could be his last. He had trained for nothing in this world. Instinct alone kept him alive. The city sprawled endlessly, a graveyard of civilization. Buildings leaned like broken teeth, windows gaping like dark mouths. Fires flickered in the distance, illuminating shadows that moved with purpose. Smoke stung his eyes. His ears rang with the cries of people he would never know. Shadows shifted unpredictably. Every corner could hide death, or worse, betrayal. He had trusted people once, and that mistake had cost him everything. Now, trust was a weapon too dangerous to wield. 2 nights ago, he had been cornered by someone he once called a friend. "Give me the food, Dylan, or I swear." Huh! The knife rose. Dylan reacted without thinking, blocking the blow with a jagged pipe. Blood sprayed, teeth clenched. The fight ended in silence, the man groaning on the ground. Trust was no longer an option. Every shadow could hide a threat. Every smile could mask a knife. Survival demanded ruthlessness. He rounded a corner and froze. 2 men fought over a backpack, knives flashing. "It's mine," one shouted. "You'll die first," the other screamed. Dylan's pulse surged. Intervention was dangerous, but he couldn't just run. A broken pipe swung, knives flew, chaos erupted. One man ran, the other fell. Dylan didn't wait. He ran. Hours passed in tense silence, punctuated by distant screams, the crack of collapsing metal, and shouting. Dylan crouched behind rubble, listening. Footsteps approached, rapid, uneven, chaotic. Voices shouted over one another, arguing for food, water, survival. He whispered, "We're not alone." Fear was no longer his enemy. It was a tool. It made him faster, sharper, alive. A hand grabbed him from behind, and Dylan spun, swinging wildly. A boy stumbled backward, eyes wide with terror. "Wait, I'm not, please!" Dylan's eyes narrowed. Could he trust him? Could anyone? "I can help," the boy stammered. "I know where food is." Dylan didn't lower his guard, but survival demanded allies. He nodded. Together, they slipped through ruins like ghosts, hearts hammering, every sound a potential death sentence. Night fell. The city became alive, predatory. Shadows moved, fires crackled, screams painted the air with terror. They were cornered by 3 men armed with knives and crowbars. "Looks like dinner has arrived," one sneered. Dylan's muscles tensed. He gripped the pipe, swinging, striking flesh and metal. Screams filled the streets. Chaos, blood, bodies collided. They ran, weaving through alleys, dodging collapsing walls, praying they weren't followed. They found shelter on a crumbling rooftop. Flames flickered below. Dylan's body shook with exhaustion. Lungs burned, hands trembled. "We can't stay here," he whispered. The boy nodded, eyes wide. Fear was contagious, but Dylan had learned to master it, to turn panic into action. Days bled into nights. Dylan scavenged, fought, and hid. Friends became enemies, strangers became saviors, shadows hid knives. One night, someone they trusted tried to poison their food. Dylan caught it just in time, stabbing the traitor in the arm. Chaos erupted. By dawn, only a few remained. Survival demanded ruthlessness, cunning, and vigilance. Dylan adapted. He became a ghost among ruins, reading shadows, anticipating threats, moving silently. Every corner could hide death. Every sound could be fatal. And still, he pressed on. Somewhere, survival meant more than living. It meant outlasting everyone who tried to kill you. He discovered a fortified building, untouched by chaos. Inside, a small group had survived. Discipline, rules, and cold eyes met him. "You've got to earn your place," a woman said, knife in hand. Dylan nodded. Trust was a currency he would spend carefully. But the world outside never stopped testing them. Screams, fires, betrayals, and fights came nightly. Every victory cost something. Every decision was life or death. The first night inside the building never felt safe. It only felt quieter than the chaos outside. And that silence was worse because it gave space for fear to grow. Dylan sat against a cracked concrete wall, gripping the metal pipe so tightly that his knuckles turned pale, his breathing slowly stabilizing, but his mind refusing to rest. Around him, the others barely spoke. They watched, always watching. Every movement, every glance carried suspicion. The tension in the room was suffocating, pressing against Dylan's chest with invisible weight, as if the silence itself was alive and watching him. His fingers tightening around the metal pipe, while his eyes moved from one survivor to another, reading faces, searching for weakness, for danger, for the moment someone might snap, because here, that was all it took. 1 second, one wrong move, and everything would fall apart. The woman stepped closer, her boots scraping softly against the cracked floor, her gaze sharp and unblinking. "You fight well," she said, but there was something colder beneath her voice now, something that made Dylan's instincts tighten. He didn't respond, didn't move, just watched, waiting. "You'll need that. Because they know this place exists," she added. And that was enough to shift everything. Dylan's eyes lifted slightly. "Who?" he asked. But before she could answer, a loud metallic udar exploded through the building, the entire structure shaking violently as dust rained down from the ceiling. Another udar followed, stronger, closer. Then shouting erupted from outside. "They found us!" And in that instant, the fragile illusion of safety shattered completely. "Positions! Move!" Voices overlapped. People scrambled, grabbing weapons, flipping tables, dragging debris to reinforce entrances, fear spreading faster than fire. Dylan was already moving before anyone finished shouting, instinct taking over, survival driving every step. The boy grabbed his sleeve again, his hands shaking uncontrollably. "What do we do?" Dylan looked at him sharply, focused, controlled. "Stay behind me, don't stop, don't freeze," he said. And then the barricade exploded inward with a deafening crash, wood splintering, metal bending, bodies rushing through the opening, one attacker, then another, then more, too many. Gunshots erupted instantly, flashes lighting up the room in violent bursts, the sound tearing through ears. One attacker charged straight at Dylan, knife raised high, but Dylan stepped forward instead of back, closing the distance. The pipe swung down hard, the man's wrist broke, the knife fell. Second udar followed instantly, the man collapsed. Another attacker came from the side, faster, the blade slicing across Dylan's ribs, pain burning through his body, but he didn't stop, couldn't stop. He grabbed the attacker's arm and twisted violently. The bone broke, the man screamed. Dylan drove the pipe into his chest, sending him crashing backward. The room descended into chaos. Voices overlapped, echoed, bodies fell. Someone shouted orders while someone else begged for help. The boy froze behind him, and Dylan saw it instantly. "Move!" He grabbed him and pulled him down just as a bullet tore through the wall where they had been standing, dust exploding into the air. They couldn't stay, not here, not anymore. "Back exit, now!" someone screamed. Dylan didn't wait. He pulled the boy and moved low and fast, weaving through the chaos, dodging bodies, slipping past collapsing furniture. The hallway ahead was narrow and broken, barely holding together. "Go!" Dylan pushed the boy forward, but behind them footsteps echoed, fast, closing in. A man appeared at the end of the corridor, blocking their path, crowbar in hand, eyes wild, breathing heavy. "Not going anywhere," he said. But Dylan didn't slow down. He ran straight at him. The man swung. Dylan ducked under the udar, feeling the air shift above him, then slammed his shoulder into the man's chest, driving him back into the wall, the impact shaking dust loose. The crowbar slipped from the man's hand. Dylan grabbed it instantly, swung once, the man staggered, second Udar followed, and the man dropped. "Move!" Dylan shouted, and they pushed forward, bursting out into the open night, cold air hitting hard, smoke burning their lungs. Behind them, the building erupted into noise, but none of it mattered. They ran, across broken streets, over shattered glass, through shadows that felt alive. "They're escaping!" a voice shouted behind them. Footsteps followed. The chase began again. Dylan's body was already breaking, every muscle screaming, but he forced himself forward. The boy stumbled once, then again. "I can't," but Dylan cut him off sharply. "You can." A loud crash behind them slowed the attackers for a moment, but not enough, never enough. They turned into an alley, then another, the city twisting into a maze, a trap. "Left," Dylan said. They turned, dead end. Everything stopped for a split second. Dylan's chest rising sharply as his eyes scanned everything. Broken wall, collapsed ladder, gap above. "Up, now," he said. "What?" The boy hesitated. "Climb!" To be continued. Part 2 in 48 hours. Subscribe for the ending.